Rev it up and welcome to Cars Yeah, show number 2166. Be prepared to be inspired.
This is Cars Yeah, where you'll enjoy interviews with inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Mark Green is here to provide you with a fuel injection of automotive inspiration. So get in, sit down, buckle up, and get ready for a wild ride here on Cars Yeah.
Hello, inspiring automotive enthusiasts, and welcome to Cars Yeah. Today I'm back in Roselle, Illinois, with a very special returning guest by the name of John Saccameno. John, welcome back to Cars Yeah. Do you have any gear, and are you ready to release the clutch?
Yes, I am, Mark. Let's go.
We're going to have some fun. Now, our longtime listeners here on Cars Yeah will think back to July of 2017. My, how things have changed since then. Oh my gosh. John was guest number 822. Today, he's 2,166. And one thing I didn't ask you last time you were on the show was, what's one little thing that maybe people don't know about you, John?
Well, back then I would have only been a college graduate for 10 years. Although I was 50, I just about to turn 60 years old. So I guess I'm a lifelong learner.
Well, that's a good thing. Absolutely. And, the thing I love about you, and we're going to talk about this, is the fact that you switched careers, I'll say later in life, and took off on a venture that is now 10 years old to go do what you really love to do. Combine your passion with your avocation and your vocation together, I guess I should say. One of the funny things you said back then was be careful, because if you do this, you'll see your checkbook kind of get diminished pretty quickly. But you've lasted 10 years, so congratulations.
Thank you. It's been an interesting 10 years, obviously. It taught me a lot, and some days I think, holy cow, we're still here.
I know.
We're three times bigger than when we started. So
wow.
I have to give my guys a lot of credit for that. But yeah, so we're not only creeping along, but we were actually able to expand fairly substantially.
Well, I'm really proud of what you've done, and we're going to talk about that. But let me give you an introduction here. John Saccameno is the owner of Sport and Specialty. They're a premium sports car restoration business just north of Chicago. He's been a lifelong car enthusiast and sports car racing fan. After a 30-year career in sales and marketing management in the retail technology space, he made a very bold move, kind of like on the racetrack, which is another place he likes to play. And in 2012, he bought Sport and Specialty. This year marks his 10th anniversary, as I noted, and his hard work has brought him awards of excellence in both concours shows as well as specific marques, including Austin Healey and Jaguar, just to name a few. In his off time, he's a vintage racer and a driving instructor, campaigning his 1969 Alfa GTV and a 1972 BMW 2002 around the Midwest. John loves to judge a variety of mixed special marque concours events as well. We'll be back in just a moment, but first a word from our valued sponsors, so give them a little love, and we'll be right back. My friends at Covercraft offer you 10 different options. That's right, 10 for your vehicle's protection. You can choose fit, custom view shield, and their newest 5-layer all-climate cover, 3-layer moderate climate cover, and a 5-layer indoor option. You have all sorts of ways to protect your car. All of these are custom tailored by Covercraft's talented craftspeople. It's the form and fit with the quality to attention to detail that's been their standard since 1965. Surface protection is the best way to preserve the investment you've made in your vehicles. It's what I do. Covercraft protects cars, trucks, motorcycles, RVs, trailers, and watercraft too. I have a Covercraft cover for every one of my vehicles, and I've got a deal for you. If you use the code YEAH21, YEAH21 at covercraft.com, they'll give you 10% off your order, plus you get free shipping. That's right, 10% off and free shipping. Just use the code YEAH21 at checkout. Covercraft, protecting the things that move you. American Collectors Insurance is my go-to for classic car insurance. But did you know they also insure your valuable collections of automobilia and other collectibles? If you're like me, you've invested in a lot of cool collectibles over the years. Those items are valuable. And if you were to lose them in a theft or a fire, well, try to get your normal homeowner's insurance to pay you what they're worth. Good luck with that. American Collectors Insurance provides you with assurance and confidence that your collectibles are fully covered. They insure a lot of items, including automobilia, wine, baseball cards, books, figurines, die-cast models, model trains, glassware, sports memorabilia, toys, and a whole lot more. American Collectors Insurance, they've been protecting us enthusiasts since 1976. They provide you with an agreed value insurance policy backed by a long history of taking care of their clients. Give them a call today for your personal agreed value quote at 866-ACI-YEAH. That's 866-224-9324. Tell them you're a friend of mine, Mark Green's here at Cars Yeah, American Collectors Insurance. Classic car insurance designed by collectors for collectors. Automotive enthusiasts just like you and me. That's American Collectors Insurance. I've teamed up with AutoGeek because, well, they've been the leading source of auto detailing products, accessories for more than 20 years. Their Pinnacle Sovereign Paste Wax is specially formulated from Brazilian carnauba wax. It's easy to apply on any paint surface and provides that warm glow that we love, especially me on my vehicles. You're going to love it too. A favorite of car shows countrywide, Pinnacle Sovereign Paste Wax from AutoGeek wipes on easily, requires no drying time, is easy to remove, and provides up to 90 days of protection against damaging environmental contaminants. This wax is designed to exceed the standards of the most discriminating enthusiasts and collectors. Go to AutoGeek.net to get yours for the best product selection on the internet today, along with their very skilled technical support. AutoGeek.net. That's where I go for all my detailing needs. That's AutoGeek.net. So, John, we're back. So let's talk a little bit about this journey you've been on for the last 10 years, because they say a lot of new businesses don't make the 3-year mark, and then they hit the 7-year itch, and things really kind of go off the rails and into the guardrails. I guess we could do a reference here to racing, since that's something you like to do. But you've done a tremendous job. You've got a great group of people. You've expanded. I follow you on Facebook. You're always posting incredible cars you're working on. So kind of walk us through these 10 years, and we'll talk a little bit about how you think you've managed to keep this thing going, make it successful, help it grow, employ people. As I said before, I'm really proud of what you've done, because this is no easy feat. So let's talk about sport and specialty.
Well, I mean, for those listeners who don't know or don't follow me, generally speaking, we focus on, mainly on service and restoration of 50s, 60s, and 70s era sports cars. I found sticking to the knitting, as they used to say, and focusing on what you really like and what you're good at is a good way to grow the business. So, over time, we went from being mostly an Austin Healey house to an Austin Healey and Jaguar house. Now we're kind of like an Austin Healey, Jaguar, and Alfa Romeo house. And in the meantime, I brought in some talent and some people, and well, we're doing some Porsche work. So I think it helps to keep your guys from getting too stale. Your team, your staff, your employees really like new stuff. We have a 51 Mercury in right now that we're restoring and rebuilding. Yeah, so the guys are like, cool. We have to push it around by hand because it's too big for the shop half the time. But it's like having a whale in there. But we move it around and we're waiting for a chassis to be built for it, and it's a full restoration. We did a Healy for the owner, and he liked the work we did enough where he said, "You guys want to take this car?" And Ryan, who's our fabrication guy, said, "Yep, we like that."
Nice.
So here we are.
Well, you dropped a couple golden nuggets there for success. And one is hire the best people you can, surround yourself with talent, and then let them go to work. And your comments just there were a great example. One of your lead fabricators said, yeah, let's do it, versus you saying, well, that's not what we do. And that expands your horizons. And as you said, it keeps it fresh for your employees. But as you're building and growing this business, what are a couple other things that when you look back over the last 10 years that you did that at the time were a little bit of a deviation, but you now see, this is why we're successful. This is why we're still here?
Well, one of the rules I made for myself when I got in the business was I didn't want to carry any debt. So
smart.
I'm the bank. I'm the bank. And my customers, I'm really stingy. So I think I pay my guys okay. I didn't want to go to the bank for any money. I didn't want to have, $150,000 hanging over my head. And we don't cut deals. You know what I mean? It's not like if we don't get desperate, because I've seen guys do things like, we'll take this job in at $65 an hour, and you go, well, I lose money at 65. Oh, that's okay. You don't make that up in volume, folks. It doesn't work that way. So I think my team understands, that I focus on this as a business, and that we all look at it that way. They know I'm always looking, to make sure they're busy, not looking over their shoulder, but, hey, are you going to get this done? How are we doing it? And it is very much a teamwork thing. Where we could have hired a couple other people in the past, I said no and waited for the better people, or at least I thought people that would add to the team. Because we've got a really good staff. Our average age in the restoration business, our average age is 43 years old.
Whoa. Okay.
So I'm not I'm certainly not discriminating against anyone over 60, but you can't keep hiring people who are about to retire. I know a lot of guys are kind of struggling with that model, and it's tough. So my team is really kind of the linchpin to our success.
Well, of course. I mean, I've heard that over and over from so many guests, especially restoration shops. And you brought up one of the points that has been a worry for a while with this industry is, are there the young people coming up through the trades that want to do this kind of work? What's been your experience? Because you say your staff is on I'll say the older side, in the 40s, because you think of restoration as a young man's game, but it's changed a lot over the last 20 years. And, a lot of young people don't want to do this, but are you seeing some bright hope of young people expressing interest and wanting to come into the industry?
I would say not in general.
Yeah.
And I think it's, it's not like I lost a guy a couple months ago, and it was hard replacing him. I replaced him with a guy in his 30s, which again, I think that's really good. And we've got a young man working for us who came to us out of high school, and we're working him through the program. You have to be patient. I was on another podcast recently, and they asked me kind of the same question, and I said, I think we as owners, or we as people in the restoration business, have to rethink how you onboard and how you bring people in. Young people want a job. They want a career. They don't stumble in and say, "Hey, I want every crappy job in this place for the next two years until you think I'm worthy to actually hold a wrench." They're not going to wait. They're not going to wait for that. That used to be every young man's dream, if you remember. Oh man, I got to go work at John's shop. And what'd you do? Well, I cleaned the toilets and washed the floors. And that's fine. And that's it seems like every mechanic's legacy these days. But at the end of the day, if you can come up with a story and say, listen, here's what I want you to do. I want you to take this piece apart, and here are the tools, and you'll be under the supervision of George, say, in my shop, and get to it. And you watch them, and you nurture them, and you spend time with them. And, I think the more we do that, the better it'll be. And it doesn't have to be highly structured. I just think it has to be a focus.
Right. I think you're right. I had a great talk with Bruce Canepa a couple of weeks ago when I was down during Car Week, Monterey Car Week. He always has an open house in his shop, which is fantastic. It's the candy land of old cars. I mean, it's just magnificent. And I asked him the same thing. I said, how's it going with finding people? And he said, it's still a struggle. If you look around the cars that we work on, these are the best of the best of the best. And people expect the best people working on their vehicles for what it costs to what we have to pay and so forth. And he said, I almost wish there were, internships of some kind that you could bring somebody in. It's like the old days in Europe when you would have somebody come in and they'd actually live in your shop for 2 years. You'd pay their room and board, but they didn't get any pay, but they got experience. I wish there was something like that, because then we could afford to do that and have somebody watch over them. But right now, to hire somebody with low skills and have to have somebody, babysit's the wrong word, but you know what I mean. That creates a bit of a challenge. And therein lies the problem. I don't know, dare I say, maybe one thing that our governments need to do is support that in some way. Maybe I shouldn't go there giving back student loans to people that took them out for degrees that didn't earn them enough to be able to pay off their debt. But at any rate, I'm glad to hear there's some hope out there. And I just had a young man on my show recently that is just graduating this coming May from McPherson in automotive restoration. He'll be looking for something to do. So, I think there's some hope out there. So when you look back at your business in the last 10 years, there's been this evolution. Because I follow you, I love old Austin Healey's, and that's what attracted me to you back when you were on the show a while ago. And now you've evolved. So in this evolution of different vehicles coming into the shop, have there been any surprises? Or is it just kind of gone, well, this is okay. We know how to do this kind of thing. We just learned some idiosyncrasies. So how has it been?
It's surprising. You need let's call it a base staff. You need some guys that know how this stuff works. You can't hire a guy out of a dealership today to come and do this work.
Whole different world. Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm not picking on dealerships. You can't swap parts, and so the guys I have either learned it organically, meaning okay, I got to go put the corner on this Jaguar, over time, and now and the first one's hard, and one of the things I do is, I've got a rule that if something gets out of hand or something goes from a 4-hour job, rough and tough, goes to 6 hours, make a mark on the timesheet, and I'll discount the customer. I don't want the customer paying for our education. On the other hand, sometimes you get stuff and you're like, wow, this thing was mangled at some point, and somebody put it together incorrect.
Right.
In that way, we've been learning as we go too how to do things properly, how things can get kind of goofy. But for the most part, I've got lots and lots of documentation. We sit down and we go through parts, and we got parts books, and our guys tend to order their own parts, or at least, give Ken, our operations manager, the data that he needs to order the parts. Mm-hmm. And you pick it up as you go along. I mean, basically, Heelys are Heelys and Jags are Jags, and Alphas are almost the same through, from 1950 to 1985.
Sure.
A lot of the other stuff, we sit down and put our heads together and say, okay, what are we going to do with this? We get some race cars that are like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I recently bought a 356 that needs everything, right? And it was it's a 63,000 mile car that was put away in 1973.
Oh my
gosh.
So
this will be interesting. And this will be interesting. This, for me, this is a time capsule. This is one I'm learning on. So I had to roll the engine over to my area, and little by little, I'm taking it apart and seeing how things came apart and how they go back together again. I'll never be the best wrench in the shop, Mark, but I am still curious.
Well, that's a good thing. And I'm excited to hear you're working on German cars, because I love German cars. And I love the other cars you do too. But of course, Porsches are one of my favorites. And it'll be interesting as you do more Porsches to hear your perspective on older Porsches, how they are to work on versus older British cars or Italian cars. They all have their own little idiosyncrasies and flavors, right?
Yeah, they do. And I'm fortunate again to have a mechanical guy that's worked on all of them. He was an ex BMW dealer mechanic, and he's worked on racing Porsches in different pieces. But his dad worked at a British car shop when he was a young man, and he's got this stuff down. And nowadays he's in his 50s, so he's not so old that I worry about him. Going home one night and not coming back.
Right, exactly. When you think about your business, I want to ask about the business side of your business, because this is one of the things that comes up, especially with younger people who go into a business around their passion. They love to work on cars, but there's this other element they have to focus on. Cash flow, insurance, payroll, parts, rent, taxes, all these things. How have you managed that? Because obviously, if you've survived 10 years, you've figured out how to manage all those business aspects and play into it. Have you done the same as you have with some of your mechanics? Have you hired the right tax accountants or attorneys or whomever to help you? Or did you dive in head first and just learn about all this so that you could do it and do it with as little pain as possible, I guess I should say?
Well, I guess the answer is yes. Fortunately, unless you dive into my website, you wouldn't. I mean, most people don't know about me, but I ran a $75 million multinational business. Okay,
well, that experience helps.
Yeah, so I look at this and I go, I know what that is, and I know how, and I took accounting for non-financial managers, and I was a general manager and had my own controller, and but now I've got Kathy, who I call my chief financial officer, and she keeps the books. And the way I set the business up was as simply as possible. And, we do QuickBooks in the cloud. I have a fairly simple yet I think, effective, billing procedure. I don't, the guys still write out their timesheets at the end of the day. And at the end of the month, we send them to a woman who types them out and we cut and paste them into QuickBooks. That's all. Simple. I've seen guys who've overcomplicated that process, and it just makes life too hard. And this is generally a simple business, and I think for people coming into it, you had asked it on one of your questionnaires. At some point you said, some focus, or what's a good good advice. And one of the things that I heard years ago, and I always go back to, Mark, is a business is a cash generating machine. Every time someone starts to talk to me about, oh, I love this, I love what you do, I love what you do this, and this is beautiful, and it's really a art, and it's hobby, and it's like a hobby, and it's nope, this business is a cash generating machine. That's it. If I treat it like that, I may love my business, and I do. And I love my guys, and I think this is a great way to end my business career for the most part. But I'll tell you what. I never forget the fact that it's a cash generating machine. If I have a very thin month, it bothers me. It really bothers me. So that means that means that means I'm not tuned up right, and that does happen. And I keep my books in a way. This goes back to my old days. I keep my books in a way where I can put my finger on it all the quite easily as to what happened.
Yeah, well, there's the key, as you just said. Simplify it. Don't reinvent the wheel. This has been done before. Make it easy.
Absolutely.
And the other thing I've heard from so many guests is create a business that can operate without you, because that means at some point when you're done or ready to move on, you can sell it and it has value to somebody else. It isn't wrapped around you being able to sit in the driver's seat and drive the thing all the time. And that's another hard thing for people to figure out how to do, right?
Well, it is. And I think as an ex-sales guy, I started out my career, carrying a bag and eating what I killed to make a living.
Yeah.
I think, and you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
I'm a commissioned guy. That's how I've always kind of paid the mortgage. And I think based on that, I've never been one to sit and watch the clock and watch the company run. And part of our success is that I have been able to go out and meet people. I'm pretty active in the car hobby. I've met a lot of people. I try to attend a lot of events. And sometimes this is where it's nice. Sometimes it's for fun. And then an hour later, I'm talking to some guy about doing his, 911, or I'm talking to some guy who's got 3 Porsches. And so, with that in mind, I've kind of set the business up so that it operates that way. I have a terrific foreman. He's our operations guy. He and I talk daily, even if I'm not there. See, I'm 75 miles from the shop. That's how far I live away.
Wow.
So it forced me
yeah.
to, not have to be there to open the doors in the morning.
Yes. Well, that's smart. And, that's a good move, I think. And especially that part of the country you live in, you guys do get a winter that could keep you from being able to get into the work on time. So
exactly.
Yeah. No, this is great. Again, I've said it before. I'm real proud of what you've built here. We'll take a short break. Thanks to some sponsors here. We come back. I want to talk about maybe one of the biggest challenges you've had in these past 10 years. So we'll keep that in mind and we'll be right back. I've discovered Linkage. It's a new quarterly publication and website that covers the automotive market, driving, restoring, collecting, and discovering your passion for motor vehicles. Linkage is about experiences, opinions, and values. Linkage is an actual informed, reasoned opinion based on first-hand experiences. A talented Linkage team covers the automotive world, the people who share your passion and mine, smart, considered, rational, and experienced opinions. Ones you can learn from and grow. That includes our passion that drives auctions and the collector car market. So come with me and join us on this journey. And be sure to use the code CARSYEAH when you subscribe, and they'll give you $10 off. Boom! Linkage, geared for the automotive life. Subscribe today at linkagemag.com. 20, 50, or 100 years from now, will there be a workforce to care for the collector vehicles we love? With auto shop programs disappearing across the country, it's a question we enthusiasts have to ask. That's why I support the RPM Foundation, which exists to ensure that the critical skills necessary to preserve and restore these vehicles aren't lost to time. One of the many ways RPM, which is short for Restoration, Preservation, and Mentorship, is accomplishing this goal is through workforce development initiatives. The RPM apprenticeship program enables the next generation of artisans to earn a living while they learn the craft of restoring and preserving these vehicles directly from industry professionals. The Endangered Skills Program documents the process of masters training future craftspeople on a variety of critical skills in danger of being lost forever. For more information on how the RPM Foundation is driving the future of the collector vehicle skills trade, visit RPM Foundation today. They're one of the charities of choice here on Cars Yeah! So let's talk about this challenge question. No doubt in the last 10 years, you've encountered a few challenges, maybe a lot, maybe even a big failure or two. But more importantly, what was the valuable learning lesson that allowed you to move forward in a positive way? So maybe walk us through one big challenge that you've encountered that kind of might bring up some bad memories, but in hindsight was a really valuable learning time.
Wow. I hate to say this. I really haven't had anything devastating. I think, a couple times. I lost a couple of key people over the years, and two of them I got back. They went out into the world and said, and listen, they did it for all the right reasons, and I encouraged them to do it. But at the end of the day, they wanted to come back, and I opened my arms. I wasn't going to be that guy. And they're back, and, I love working with them. That was hard, though, because it puts an immediate hole in your objectives for that day, week, month, and year, and both operationally and financially, and that was hard. And two of them came back again. I lost another one a couple months ago, and I love that guy. I mean, he was a great guy, and he's been working for us for a little over almost 4 years, and he was good. And he came in with very little talent too. Except he wanted to try stuff, and I gave him the opportunity to do it. He turned out to be really, really good. Now, he didn't quit the business because it was hard, or he actually went into, horses. I mean, I'm like, okay, God love you.
From horsepower to horses.
Yeah. And I'm like, oh man, come on. Now we replaced him just recently within the last couple of weeks. And now our challenge is to get that guy into the same, same mold. But, it's just like Bruce said, it's people. You gotta have people.
You and I are active on social media, and when you see people griping on social media about their jobs, and this is kind of a cliche, it's never the job they're griping about. It's the people they have to work with. It's their boss, their district managers, somebody that the company has put up with and won't get rid of, and you've got to live with that person every day. It's always goes back to that. But, I'm a big supporter of RPM Foundation and TechForce Foundation. Those are two great organizations that hopefully you know of, but if you don't, you can reach out to them, and they're part of trying to bring people into this workforce, even people that are changing careers later in life, which you did, and finding a role for them. So those might be two good references for you.
I do work with RPM Foundation very closely. Diane Fitzgerald and I are personally close.
Oh, great! Yep.
And we became close through RPM. And then I've been attempting to. I want to say attempting, but I have supported TechForce here in the Midwest. Everybody knows I'm an easy touch. So, and I'm a big supporter of that, Mark. I really believe that me giving back to the community also includes trying to work with RPM and TechForce. TechForce is a little more focused on let's call it the current era and dealer work, but I've spoken to their guys. They've asked me to come in and give presentations on what's going on with what's going on in the restoration business. Why is it different than what they're doing today? And then, I went out to a local high school not too long ago, set up through Nick Ellis at RPM Foundation.
Oh yeah,
and Nick set up. And again, Nick and I are pretty close. We probably talk at least every month or two, and we talked, he invited me to get myself involved with a local high school that's got a shop class. And I came in and brought one of my Heelys, one of my newest cars. I drove it over from my house, which wasn't too far.
Nice.
And, we spent the afternoon chit-chat. And it was really fun. It was nice. I like doing that. I think it's a positive thing. I really do. I wish more people would do it, but.
Well, that's why I'm trying to get the word out.
Yeah. Oh, no. And I'll tell you what, your support of it and my support of it. And, we just try to keep doing more and more and more. And I think I think it helps grow the efforts.
Yeah, absolutely. I always like to ask my guests about a special vehicle story. You talked about one last time you were on the show, so I want to do something a little different with you. And this may be like asking you who your favorite child is. Is there a vehicle that you've restored maybe of late? And I know you've restored, and you can go on your website and see some of the magnificent restorations, but is there one vehicle that maybe just today, you don't have to call it your favorite, but just talk about today that really stands out that you guys worked on and restored that went on to win an award?
Wow. Probably I would tell you, we released one last year, and it's my car, but it's a car that had been in the shop before. And it's a 100 Healy BN1 with like an Le Mans package on it. And some people have seen it, I guess. It's black with a red cove on it, and it's made to a very, very, very special M spec. Everything is on there. It's on there properly. It's a Concord build. But I kind of did it the way I wanted to do on a few things. But it's I put disc brakes on the front so I could actually drive it. It's not, as it came off the factory floor, but boy, what a terrific car. And last year, actually this weekend is the, Chicagoland area, British Car Festival. And, out of like 350 cars, it took best of show. So I was pretty proud of it last year. I was pretty proud of it. Everybody goes, what are you going to do now? I'm going to go drive it. I already won something,
That begs a question for you, because I've been having more and more guests on the show that are doing, I'll call it Resto Mod, but I think you know where I'm going with this. Resto Mod used to be, in my mind, something a little different. What's happened now is people that want these old cars, but when they get in and want to drive it, like you said, you put disc brakes in the front so you could actually drive it. They drive an old car and they go, this isn't much fun. So there are people doing these, I'll call it outlaw. If you talk about like Rod Emery or John Wilhoit. Singer's an extreme example, but I've had plenty of others on the show. People doing Broncos and all sorts of cars. They're taking old cars and they're making drivable. They're putting better power plants in them, things like that, but they still look period correct. Have you done anything like that with some of your jobs?
Well, even my cars, I've got a BJ8 Austin Healey, a white one with a blue cove on it. If somebody goes on the website, and it's got a Toyota transmission. Transmission in it. And everybody says, why'd you do that? I said, because these overdrives are just starting to get too expensive to fix. And I got to tell you, the gear ratios on this Toyota 5-speed are delicious. They're perfect. They transform the car, and the car's got a brand new chassis on it, and it has a leather interior, and it's so comfortable to drive, and it just makes it a nicer car. The BN1 that I finished last year that won Best of Show, it really comes down to it. Well, I'll tell you what, there's almost a safety measure in here, Mark. I'm always amazed which cars I tend to lean to if I have to go a distance, and it usually isn't my little British cars or my Alpha. It's usually something with a little bit longer legs, because the speed limits. I mean, if you're not doing 85 miles an hour down the Illinois tollway,
you get run over.
You're going to get crushed. And so I try to do what I can to kind of loosen them up a little bit and get them to stop and go a little bit, more briskly. But, even, any minivan is hustling down, these 45 mile an hour roads at 60 miles an hour, for God's sake.
Right.
So,
right.
You see a guy in an MGTD and you go, holy cow.
Good luck.
It better be Sunday morning, right?
Well, I think you're right. I'll tell you, I just had Dave Majors, who's the CEO of Mecum Auctions, on my show. Yep. And we talked about this, and he said, back in the day, he said, I remember Mecum, the first time we sold a Corvette Resto Mod, and everybody raised their eyes. We got all these this was years ago, negative comments. How blasphemy. How could you do that to an old 50s era Corvette? That's just terrible. But he said the same thing. He said, now these cars that you and I are talking about are getting great money if they're done well, because us more mature guys, I won't call you and I old, but us more mature guys, we want to be able to get a car and feel safe, have the power to keep up, have fun. The thing will stop, it'll go, it'll turn, and still make us smile and have that old vintage feel. So I'm happy to hear that some of that is happening with your shop as well, because the worst thing for these old cars is for them to sit and not be driven because they just don't feel safe.
Sure, and aluminum radiators. I put them in almost. It's like, look, put the radiator in. Oh, it's not original. You know what? Very little is, but when you get tired of like seeing the red lights in front of you, all these tail lights going, oh God, traffic stop, I'm going to overheat. Who wants to do that? I'm getting too old. As you said, I'm getting too old for that. I'm like, no. I want this thing to like not overheat. I want it to run at 187 degrees every day, all day, and that can be done. That can be done, and it doesn't ruin the car. It doesn't ruin the car. But as you said, it has to be done tastefully. I think, to me, it has to look like it, kind of look like it belongs. I think there's things you can do that that make it that way. But holy cow, they're just so much more fun to drive when you're not worried about everything.
I tell you, when I drove one of Rod's Speedsters, his Outlaw Speedsters, and the same day I drove a basically outlaw John Wilhoit 356 Coupe, an A, that he'd put a 2.2 liter, one of his special motors, and Porsche 911 suspension. And I looked at both those guys and I said, I've always wanted a 356. I don't want one anymore, because this is too fun. And so, it's just evolution. So I'm happy to hear that. So I didn't ask you this question before. I'm going to be your car psychologist. I'm going to crawl into your skull a little bit. If you were reincarnated, pun intended, as a vehicle, what would John be? But more importantly, why?
Yeah, I'd probably be I'd still be, I think the last time you asked me a question, someone like this is one of my favorite cars. And I'd still be an Aston Martin Zagato. I just love those cars. I just think at the time they were the pinnacle of both styling and technology, and I thought they were neat cars. Now, having said that, I would probably add air conditioning, and and make sure that the brakes were good and that I could drive it around without. Again, I'm not so worried about bashing into anybody as much as just having a miserable day. Again, I'm 65. A very young, spry, active 65. I gotta tell you, sitting in I have a 356C. This one we're working on now, and I'm looking at it going, oh man, I don't know when I'm gonna drive this thing, but I gotta figure out something for air. So I don't care if I gotta have a bucket of ice. But the days of us sitting in the cars with our shirts off, sweating and laughing, and stopping
no
at
fun
7-Eleven for Slurpees. It's not fun. It's not. My wife won't go with me anymore.
Well, there's a. I've had the owner of Vintage Air on my show, and maybe they can set you up with a system.
I've used them. I've used their stuff.
Great company.
It's good stuff. I just did 2 GTAs with air conditioning in them. 2 Alpha GTAs, and there's no pride here. I'm like, here, let's figure out a cool way to do this.
And you do live where it gets a little warm and a lot cold. So those extremes are no fun at all. So is there a great book that you've read of late that you could share with our listeners?
Wow. Well, I supported our friend Bert Levy's last endeavor. I've got a couple of his preview editions of his last book sitting here on my coffee table. Bert always puts out good books. You would ask something about a book 2. The book 3 of the 200-mile-per-hour steamroller. I'm one of. Bert caught me at a swap meet, and I was writing a check for $200 before I knew what happened. But
he's good at that, isn't he?
My name's in the. I know, and my name's in the book somewhere.
Wow.
But I wrote that down. I said, it's kind of a vintage racing thing. I said, if you look at Bert's books, the one thing I like about Bert's stuff, and is that if you're really interested in how the SCCA came to be and what the legacy of current vintage racing and why some of us old guys get so excited about it, read Bert's book.
Yeah.
Start on his stuff. The Last Open Road.
Yep.
And if you're a younger guy, it's not. Buddy Palumbo is not. It would be a fun character to read about, but Do people read anymore? I'm not sure, Mark.
Well, I hope
I'm
so.
not
That's
sure.
why I try to promote them here on Cars Yeah. So
I know.
Bert's
No,
great.
thank you very
I
much.
think it's awesome. So before I let you go today, I'm going to enable you to go on the ultimate drive. You may have partially answered this before. I'm going to provide you with any vehicle in the world, park it in your garage. You can take it for a drive, and you can take anybody with you, even somebody who's passed. What does the ultimate drive look like for you?
Well, since you do follow me on social media, I think I had a lesson recently, and I posted some pictures. There was a gentleman that was my Uncle Pat Murphy, and Pat, I posted some pictures in his younger days around 1960. He was a model, and he had some pictures, and I posted some of those. And he just looked like a fun guy, and he was. And he was in his 80s when he passed away recently, and it was quick and it was dignified and things happen. I get that, but he and I we would always talk about like taking a trip together. Okay,
Nice.
And he was just one of those interesting guys, and aunts and uncles, and there's people that we know that know family history that we think we understand, and they actually lived it, so they know better. And we had talked about taking a drive for years, and when he got sick, I went, wait a minute, come on, no, not now. You can't do that.
Right.
We were going to take a trip to Arizona. We were going to do Route 66, and we never got to. And I guess the things we talk about would just simply be family and getting to know another person as close to you. But I think we don't even, and you and I are just as probably guilty of it. We don't just go, hey, I'm out of here. Where are you going? I'm going to jump in this car and I'm going to go somewhere with somebody. You know what I mean? And I just don't think we take those drives. I think that a lot of people envision that, but they don't do it. And I'm just as guilty of it. And
your lesson here is just go do it. And don't, if anything COVID has done is taught us about mortality. And the lesson you've learned here with your, God bless your Uncle Pat, may he rest in peace, is you got to take the time to do these things because we may not have them in the future. But that's the valuable lesson with this question for you is, go take your Uncle Pat for a drive. Even if it's around the block. Yeah. Just go do it, right?
That's why we do this. I mean, that's why we like these cars. Let's go drive them, get other people, and share the phone.
Well, that's a good lead into our parting thought here, and that is words of wisdom. Would yours be just get out and drive?
Yeah, right. No, I'll probably do that later. I just left to go to the upholstery shop yet today, but I still have work to do. No, I would tell you, Mark. I said one of the things I did put down was that for anybody that wants to either do things or get involved in this hobby, either to make money or to, maybe make a little money or to like retire doing things involved. And the kids too, I tell them this too, is build a brand. Forever, Chad Saccameno will probably be Sport and Specialty now. Mark Green is Cars Yeah. You know what I mean?
Kind of get it.
And I said, right. And we both, cultivated a brand, and I tell the young guys, even the young guys in my shop, I go, look, I can't guarantee you a job for life, but you've done some cool work here. Cultivate your brand. Be Ryan Vetter, the best fabricator on the planet. Be Ryan Vetter, who knows Healy and Jaguar bodies better than anybody in the United States. Be that guy.
Right.
And what can I do to help you be that guy?
Great advice.
And that's the kind of advice I try to give, like the RPM people. Nick calls me occasionally and says, hey, would you talk to so-and-so? And he and I have talked to some of these kids in and out of businesses because it just wasn't right for them and they couldn't build a brand. And and it made sense once we did it. But I would tell you that's my one word of wisdom from one guy who's built a brand to another guy who's built a couple of brands himself.
Yeah, great advice. It's really, really important. How do people learn more about Sport and Specialty?
Well, all you have to do is go to Google and put in Sport and Specialty, SPORTAND Specialty, or go to www.sportandspecialty.com, and it'll come up. And if you want to give me a call, my cell phone number is down at the bottom of the page. You can go through there, and we got a lot of fun stuff going on. We're not that big, Mark, where people can't call me, and I might not answer, but I will try to get back to I will try to get back to anybody who's interested in talking to me.
Well, it's been great. I'm, again, so proud of what you've built. The fact that you're still here, you're doing it. I love following you on social media. You listeners, check out Sport and Specialty. Follow John on social media because you can see all the very cool stuff. And he does post a lot, so you can see these cars. He's offered you some great advice today on how to build a business and be successful. John, hey, thanks for stopping in again here at Cars Yeah and sharing your expertise and your time. Until you and I talk again, I'll see you down the road.
Thank you, Mark. I appreciate the time you offered me, and we should do this less than 5 years from now.
Yeah, I think so. Absolutely.
Thank you so much for joining us on today's ride here at Cars Yeah. Drive on over to carsyeah.com to find show notes and inspiring automotive fun. Download your free copy of Filler Up, a fun book filled with gorgeous photographs of fuel filler fun, including quotes from more inspiring automotive enthusiasts. Download your copy today, and we'll see you next time on Cars Yeah.